same radio or personal listening device. He will be back. And so in the meantime, we've got some things to talk about here. There was a developing story today on the news, and I'll wait until we get more details on it. It had to do with a riot over at JFK, and they had to basically shelter everyone in place. But I'm not going to go into that, and let's let the story develop, and by tomorrow we should be able to see if it's something that we should be talking about. But there's a lot of other things to talk about, that's for sure. And so if you've got something on your mind, if you have some personal information on something that's in the news today, by all means, call 888-8255. The past couple of days, I've been reading to you an article that Bob sent me entitled Lies the Left Tells About Guns. And so let's go ahead and finish this up with the last two statements, rhetorical statements coming from Democrats that betray a deep misunderstanding of the right to bear arms. And so the next one is by David Axelrod. Don't know who he is, but he bears mention here. Weapons of war kill large numbers of people. Why are they still legal? So let's go ahead and a response from, this is American Greatness magazine that published this on the 9th of September. And the response is an explanation. Axelrod doesn't define what he means here as, quote, weapons of war. No one ever really does. But this seems as good a time as any to point out the key differences between automatic weapons, largely banned, and semi-automatic weapons, mostly handguns. An automatic weapon can shoot more than one round when you pull the trigger, e.g. a machine gun. A semi-automatic, most handguns, many rifles, some shotguns, do not. Contrary to popular belief, automatic weapons have not been used in recent mass shootings. Semi-automatics have been. The Federal Firearms Transaction Record required for all gun purchases asks, have you ever been adjudicated as a mental defective or have you ever been committed to a mental institution? Falsifying the form is a crime. It's just a factoid they throw in there. So then they continue. Moreover, the only automatic weapons legal to purchase for civilians in the United States are those registered between 1934 and 1986. Since 1986, Congress has forbidden gun makers from even producing fully automatic weapons for the civilian market. Automatic weapons have been heavily regulated since the National Firearms Act of 1934. If you want to take possession of an automatic weapon, the bar is quite high. A substantial transfer tax, application, federal background check, and fingerprinting are all required. If you violate the Firearms Act, good luck to you. You'll sit in prison for 10 years and pay up to $100,000 in fines. National Firearms Act of 1934. You've seen Eliot Ness and the Untouchables, and those the Tommy guns with the round magazines that got into the hands of the gangsters back during Prohibition. Standing on the running board of a car that's going through the streets of Chicago, and they're just firing, at their targets from a moving car, but standing on the running board. So that's when they passed that law. And here's a quote from Chuck Schumer. I guess that's the minority leader in the Senate. The Odessa shooting, quote, could have been avoided with a background check bill. And the response? Actually, no. The Odessa, Texas shooter did not legally own his gun, an AR-15, and existing laws made it illegal for him to purchase one. He obtained his gun from a currently unidentified person that law enforcement officials believe may have illegally manufactured and sold the gun to him. Some commentators claim the fact that the gunman bought his weapon through a, quote, private sale meant that he escaped a background check. But let's be very clear here. He escaped a background check because the seller was selling illegally. Private sales require the seller to be legally compliant, and private sales also require background checks. Legal private sales are still federally regulated, and there are harsh penalties for buyers and sellers who violate the law. The shooter was also prohibited under federal law from owning a firearm because a court previously had found him mentally unfit. He evidently had tried to purchase a gun in January 2014 but failed because the National Criminal Background Check System had flagged the mental health determination. The Federal Firearms Transaction Record Form 4437, required of all gun purchases, asks, quote, have you ever been adjudicated as a mental defective, or have you ever committed to a mental institution? Falsifying the form is a crime. It was later revealed the shooter had a criminal record that included pleading guilty to criminal trespassing and evading arrest, both of which are misdemeanors in Texas. He did not receive jail time, but instead got 2 years of probation. The Odessa shooting was a horror, but existing laws prevented it from happening sooner. And the fact that he got a gun at all tells us what common sense already teaches. Motivated criminals don't abide by laws. As my boss, former U.S. Senator Jim DeMint, Republican of South Carolina, said recently, the breakdown of the culture is more responsible for mass shootings than the availability of the guns themselves. There are myriad reasons for this, but lawmakers, he noted, need to set a better example for how to treat people before rushing to strip Second Amendment rights from the rest of us. Now, I appreciate the perspective of this article, and I hope you do too. Much of this information does not float to the top in the media, in the discussion. And I'm not going to hold it against the author of this article that he works for former Senator Jim DeMint. Isn't he the fellow who had made the comment that Guam is going to tip over if more American troops were stationed here? You know, same guy. Let's go ahead and see what's shaken on line one. Welcome to Tall Tales. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What congressman is that? The one that said that Guam could capsize?
I think he's the one, right? Jim DeMint? Republican of South Carolina, former U.S. Senator? I seem to recall.
It was a black senator, but I can't remember his last name.
Oh.
But anyway, what I called about is that the guy that did the shooting over in West Texas, right? He got turned down at the store because he failed the background check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he went over to a private seller, and that private seller was probably selling illegal guns out of his trunk. Are private sellers required by law now to have a background check also?
Well,
they sell to other individuals?
Well, they have to have a background check and be licensed to possess
the
gun.
How is he going to have a background check on the prospective buyer?
Well, the buyer is supposed to apply for the permit to own the gun, to possess the gun, and then to receive it from the seller. You could buy it, but
the buyer did not have any documents, so that's why he went ahead and bought it from this private guy.
Exactly.
And the private guy didn't know that what he was doing is illegal.
Or didn't care.
That guy selling it to that guy that did not have a document proving that he is okay by law.
Well, the seller didn't care whether it was legal or not, because the seller wasn't the one to perform the background check.
Yeah, you're correct, because they're criminals themselves, the seller, the ones that are selling it off the trunk of their car.
If he wasn't a criminal, selling the gun to the fellow who did the shooting made him a criminal, but he has to be adjudicated first before we can say for sure. You know, he has to have his day in court. But certainly, as the source of a weapon that got into the hands of a person who was not legally allowed to possess a gun, like under the current laws, he violated federal law on firearms. And so that's the point that this article is making.
Yeah.
because each of the statements I've been reading out is some public position that 6 leading Democrats have made to persuade people to support their particular take on gun control legislation.
What bothers me about this whole issue again is what is the hell is going on in Congress? Why did they approve that automatic sale of guns before 1986? Why don't they just ban it altogether and eliminate out of the country all of these automatic weapons?
There are reasons for people to own them, but but it's by permit. So it's a regulated right. It's a right to own. It's not being, the right to own is not unduly restricted, but for this particular class of weapons, you really have to have a reason which is sufficient for federal approval, for the law enforcement, federal law enforcement, and local law enforcement to be comfortable with the fact that you have a weapon that's got more power and capacity than they do, routinely carrying around with them.
Yeah, I can understand law enforcement officials having automatic weapons, but civilians, there's no reason why they should have automatic weapons, because they can have fun with their semi-automatic, going to firing ranges and have a gun competition, right? But why automatic weapons?
It may be that
you can go hunting with automatic weapons.
No, but you may be applying to purchase an automatic weapon so that it's part of your arsenal for a gun club, let's say, and so you have to secure the weapon, and you have to make sure that it's not going to leave its a supervised use. But that would be a legitimate use for the weapon, to provide people with an opportunity to purchase the entertainment value of being able to experience shooting the automatic weapon. And it may be that you're using a reduced charge load. And so that would be one example of permitting people to own an automatic weapon. And that's why it's not banned completely. It is simply regulated more strictly.
But in my opinion, no matter how much gun control laws they enact, they're already having trouble as it is enforcing the laws that they have in the books now. Why don't they just concentrate on enforcing the laws that they have now instead of trying to invent new laws?
I don't know. We're
crazy.
Well, we have our delegate there, but he can vote in committee if he's in one of the committees that's going to be taking this up. But otherwise, we don't have a say in the matter. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the country itself, the whole 50 states,
It's we're not participating in the making of those laws. So maybe that makes us a bit cleaner. Tom, thank you for your call. I got another call on line 2.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
good. Thanks for starting out the show today. Let's see what's shaking on line 2. Jesse, welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, Daryl.
Yes.
Hey, I just wanted to change. I'm going to change the subject a little bit. Just changing the subject on 2 things. I watched the hearing, the judiciary hearing, the one where this Adams guy about the Dave Davis case.
Mm-hmm.
After I watched the video of the hearing, it turned out to be a partisan political theatrics going on in there, and it seemed the Republicans were using the Dave Davis case versus Guam to highlight the hypocrisy of the Obama administration, the Democrats, and the ACLU and other civil rights groups that didn't stand up for Dave Davis. But then you see Nadler come later on and says, I don't even know why Guam was brought into this. It's just, it has nothing to do with what they were talking about to begin with. So
it's like a photo op.
Yes, exactly. It was just all set up. But the other thing that I was disturbed about was, why didn't Mike Nicholas attend that? Or why didn't someone from Guam attend that hearing. That would have been a perfect opportunity to ask Congress, can you help us fix this voting thing? Because we don't want to be in violation of anything, but we also want to recognize the rights of the Chamorro people or the Native people, because the chairman there goes, oh, I apologize for not knowing the situation or I apologize for not knowing the case on Guam or something like that. And in my mind, I'm like, this guy doesn't even know about the case.
No,
these are the Congress people that have, how do you say this? Power over the territories. It's amazing.
well, they all have power. They all have power, but if they don't know what the testimony is going to be that's presented, people come and they sign up for it, but it might not have gotten back around to the delegate's office and to make sure he would be there. But if he's not a member of the committee, he would have to ask the chairman, can he sit in, and all this. But
how come he didn't? How come no one? I mean, I don't know how Washington works, but wouldn't he have got whipped that, hey, this guy is going to testify, this Adams guy is going to testify about the Dave Davis case, where he represented Dave Davis, so maybe he should go sit in and listen, or maybe the people from Guam that's there could have went and sat in as well and just shown presence.
No, I wouldn't fault the delegate's office for not knowing, because the attorney is a voting rights attorney.
I'm just asking how come he didn't know about it. I want to know why didn't they,
I wouldn't even. I did used to work as a volunteer only, actually, up on Capitol Hill with the congressional office. I worked in the Guam district office, but I didn't have. I worked as an employee here. But in D.C., there's a lot of hearings going on, and you can't. You wouldn't know until the end of the day, and you know that the staff is going to flag something that pops out of a discussion, and then the delegate's office would go over and send somebody to.
Said that because this seemed like it was a pretty high-profile thing. I mean, we're talking about voting rights, and so I just thought it may have been, But anyways, that was just one thing. The second thing that I want to bring up again is this EITC thing, and this unfunded is basically EITC is basically a social welfare program,
Mm-hmm.
And just like the food stamps, just like the Section 8, just like the WIC, we don't pay into that. You know what I mean? That's stateside. That's taxpayers in the states. That's their money coming into Guam. And EITC is basically a social welfare program for low-income individuals or families.
Yes.
Except that the U.S. government in this case gives us money for food stamp and everything else, but not the EITC.
Right.
And now it's created this debt because we had to borrow money, and now Mike Snickers is saying, I don't know, it sounds like he's saying, let's just take more of that out for Section 30, because obviously that's what the government does already. But Section 30 was never intended to fund a social welfare program. It was intended to operate, to go to government operations, from my understanding.
That's right. That's right.
And then by, because we mirror the U.S. tax code, right?
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico and the other, I think I forgot the other American Samoa doesn't. Congress is then kind of discriminating against the other territories, because we're getting a social welfare program, but the Puerto Ricans and the American Samoans aren't.
Well,
I don't know if that was their intention to leave them out of it just because they didn't want to mirror the tax code.
It's not a matter of discrimination. Congress has the plenary power over the territories, which include American Samoa, Northern Marianas, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and Guam,
right.
And also Johnston Island, Wake Island, Midway Island, and other rocks out in the ocean. We're all the same, although the Big Five have populations, and so. When Congress passes a law, unless it specifically says that the territories are included, it must specifically say that. If it does, or if it says Guam is included, then it can be administered to Guam. But if it's not included, then it won't. Then the territory will not. the program will not extend to that territory. There are many, many programs in the government, the U.S. government, that do not have beneficiaries in the territories because they were never intended to be extending to the territories. And so, but when they did extend EITC to Guam, it was a benefit for, it's social, it's a
welfare.
transfer. These are transfer payments. They're called transfer payments. You take money from taxpayers and you transfer it to people who don't make enough to pay taxes. And so it was a way of basically working the tax rates to make the tax rate more progressive by actually having a negative tax, a payout for those people who are under a certain level of income or have so many dependents, but they're working. That's why it's an earned income tax credit. You have to actually be paying taxes on your income to qualify.
You could even work for a month or 2 days, and if you can claim that as income, you could probably get an earned income.
Well, there is a
You won't
formula.
have to work full time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a formula, and so there's. But what they did not do is provide Guam with the funding source that is shared in the 50 states, and that again is congressional power. That it's not a matter of discrimination. It's a matter of did the Congress intend for this specific territory, not all of the territories, but the specific territory to get the program, and were they specifically authorized to pay for that program out of the U.S. Treasury? And so the answer to the first question is yes. The answer to the second question is no, because we have, in Congress's view, we have sufficient funds in our tax revenues to pay out the national program to people within the tax boundaries of Guam. And so that's how that worked.
And that's what I mean is now that Congress is saying, we make enough money to pay it out, right? But at the end of the day, why should we? You know what I mean? This is something that you guys put on our plate, just like the Compact Impact. Again, and I mean, this goes back to the whole, why do we're not even part of this congressional process. These are critical things that are affecting our island. You know what I mean? And just like how you said yesterday, that the government of Guam is basically an arm of the federal government.
It is, and that's why when Congress passes laws,
it doesn't make any sense. It's bullcrap. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
this is just straight. And then we have this delegate. We had delegates in the past for all these years that really couldn't do anything.
Well,
without Congress making a decision on it, and then they have to go to the Senate, then to the president.
Yes,
this is all baloney, man.
No, it is the United States government. It is set up, but we are not living in the States, so don't expect to be treated the same. That's why there has been an interest on Guam over the decades to change political status. And so we'll be talking more about this. We'll be talking more about this in the coming hour.
The tax refund thing as a tool to get votes, because it's money. You know what I mean? People want money. And if you can promise them money, oh man, they're gonna jump on your back right away.
Well, what's better than money? There is something that's better than money.
Oh, food stamp.
Free money. Free money is better than money.
Free money, yeah. But that's that in a sense is almost like the EITC. It's almost free money,
Well, they are transfer payments, and also on Guam we benefit. We benefit by having those monies spent in this economy, whether they're transferred from them or they're transferred locally. The money is spent here.
It's circulated back into the
Guam economy, and so we have to.
The issue that I have that I don't like is the Section 30 money being tapped for those things, and also just the fact that it's a mandate from Congress. Again, it's just taking power away from our governor and our legislators, and they're putting a burden on us to find out how to pay it, just like the Compact Impact.
Well, Jesse,
You know?
thank you, Jesse, for bringing this up. But in the coming, over the next hour, in the next half hour, or after the top of the hour news and halftime show, we'll be bringing this up. Okay, so stay tuned.
Thanks,
Thank you for the call. It's 4:32, and time to take a break, and we'll come back with the Zami Ikatni portion of Tall Tales.
Save big. Save really big when you bundle up your insurance policies with Nanbo Insurance. Insure your home, auto, motorcycle, or business with Nanbo and enjoy great savings, up to 50%. When it comes to insuring your property, no one knows better than the company with over 50 years of service to the community. Don't compromise the things that matter to you most. Call Nanbo today at 477-9754 or visit nanbo.com for more information. Nanbo Insurance, serving you since 1968.
Tall Tales is brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his Smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his Smile team.
They make smiles happen.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mescla's. Try their featured special for September. Shrimp hash crusted parrotfish. Succulent parrotfish fillets crusted with a shrimp farce. Twice cooked, served over basil lace sweet potato croquet and a crab corn bisque sauce. Visit Mescla in Agana and now in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. On Facebook Live, we're got a few comments running from folks who have tuned in. Jennifer Eunice says half a day. And Sherry Iriarty reminds us that Hank Johnson was the one fearing Guam would tip over. You know, we strike fear in the heart of federal officials. And so I had asked her to let me know, let's see. And she said, Henry Calvin Johnson Jr. is a U.S. rep for Georgia's 4th Congressional District, serving since 2007. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to see what the rest of her. It doesn't say what the rest of her comment is. Tita Goy says, on social media there are people commenting negative, rude, insulting verbiage regarding the pursuit of the right of self-determination for all residents, no matter how they stand on the issue. We are doing it with respect. We are not beating each other up over a red hat. Also, we don't go around burning the American flag like they do in the U.S. And we are called racist in D.C. for wanting our right to self-determination. Well, try burning the American flag here on Guam, you get your butt whipped. We've lost many familiars over the course of many wars that served honorably and lost their lives. The flag has meaning, respect for us. Hold on. The flag has meaning, respect to us for our lost ones. Biba y Tanota. And that's coming from Tito Guay. Thank you for your comment there. Sherry Iriarty continues, Henry Calvin Johnson Jr. is a U.S. rep for Georgia's 4th Congressional District, serving since 2007. He may be the one. Kenny Williams, I think he was talking about the gun control topic. He said, protection from piracy. Yeah, protection from piracy. Need to have automatic weapons. If you're going to sail your boat from here to Bangkok, you better have an automatic weapon. And that would be one reason why you'd be allowed to buy one. To protect yourself on the high seas. Eddie Cruz is watching. I really liked your comment, Eddie, about what was it? I was supposed to write that down. We'll get to that. But I saw your comment this morning, and I just really thought that it was spot on. And I'm winging this on not much sleep, so excuse me on this. And Ken Leon Guerrero, the other governor, Leon Guerrero, and not to be confused with the staffer at Delegate St. Nicholas's office, says one good argument for delinking from the U.S. IRS tax code. Politicians are claiming Guam is not ready to delink because we don't have the ability to create and manage our own tax system. We can't even manage the system we've got. And that is a good argument to just paint us with that immaturity label. We've painted ourselves with it. Jesse Limtiaco says, flat tax, plain and simple. You know, that's one thing that we can do without having to change the economics. And I'm sure there are qualified people here on Guam who could calculate the expected revenue schemes for an alternative to the current tax system. We're allowed to do it. We haven't done it. And this is where we don't need to be waiting for somebody else to do it. We could do it right now. Thank you for your comments on Facebook Live. Let's go to line 1 again, back to the phones to see who's here. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, Daryl. This is Kellis.
Hey, Kellis.
I was just calling in because I was listening in, and the guy was saying, I didn't hear his whole comments. I don't know what was said on both sides, but that he thought that Congress might have been, that EITC was a way to, like, punish us maybe or something like that. But in other words, since we haven't delinked, in other words, the EITC that we're paying is because we chose to pay it. We didn't have to. The government of Guam is the one that chose to do this. We could have delinked from the tax code. As a matter of fact, I think for the first number of years, we actually weren't paying the earned income tax credit until I think someone decided to put it in. You know, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, as a political favor.
We weren't doing it.
Yes, I thank you for reminding me of that. You're right. It was adopted as a program by the local government, and so we decided to start paying it out as a to assist. It's just another way of assisting the beneficiaries, those who would be eligible under those guidelines. Instead of retaining the money and spending it directly on the hospital where they are going to for their medical care, because they can't go to any of the clinics and they don't have insurance. Instead of spending it on all the places where people who are indigent, or actually they're working poor. EITC goes to the working poor. You have to be holding down a job, but under the guidelines you qualify for a supplement at tax time. And so these are people who are right now in, yeah.
What I was about to say is, because I'm about to have to get off here, I had one of my nieces who was working but just had a short period of time work. And I think she put in a grand total of $100 in taxes. That year, she got an $8,000 or a $7,000 refund. And I'm like, she paid $100 in taxes. And it was like, I don't want to exaggerate too much, so let's call it a $5,000 refund. I think it was closer to $7,000. But she got $5,000 back for paying $100.
That's why I was saying it's a transfer payment. It's just like a welfare payment, but it is administered through the tax process. And that is what EITC is.
What I wanted to emphasize is the fact that this is not coming down from the federal government. This is something that Gov Guam, because we obviously have too much money, and so Gov Guam, the senators, in wanting to be reelected, says, hey, let's give out this.
You know, that you're right, and I want to thank you for reminding us of that.
Okay, I got to go because of where I need to be. Bye.
Well, thank you very much for your call, Callis. And so, you know, it's one of those things. You're certainly welcome to call and chime in when you know something, or you think that I need to be corrected, or you can bring information to the discussion, I don't mind at all. 888-8255 is the number here at the studio. It's 4:42. Let's go ahead and get started on Zami Ikatni. We've got two local editorials today. The first one, exercising voting rights in the PDN. And at the Guam Daily Post, they're talking about robust competition in Guam's telecom market benefits consumers and businesses. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let's go with exercising voting rights first. Voting is a key right and responsibility in our representative democracy. Unfortunately, one that is too often ignored, a vital right that isn't used by far too many citizens who are eligible voters. As President Abraham Lincoln so poignantly articulated, our government is, quote, of the people, by the people, for the people. We, the people, are empowered to elect a governor, lieutenant governor, senators, a delegate to Congress, public auditor, attorney general, and mayors for our villages. This is a tremendous responsibility and why it's so very vital that every eligible citizen casts a ballot in every election. And when it comes to voting for your mayor, it's critical that you do so in the village in which you actually reside. At least 380 registered voters' polling precincts were transferred over a 5-month period to match the village in which they currently live, as required by law. Guam recently implemented the motor voter law, which allows voter registration when you apply for a new Guam driver's license or a renewal at the Department of Revenue and Taxation. The Guam Election Commission transferred the voting precincts to match residency. Quote, the law requires that you vote where you live. Guam Election Commission Executive Director Maria Pangilinan said, quote, if they get challenged and they cannot prove they're living in your village, the vote won't count. The commission got at least 1,266 newly registered voters from March to July. Over the 5-month period, the number of new registered voters was up by 366 in July, a huge jump from the not more than 10 new registered voters a month usual at this time of year, Pangilinan said. As of July, the total number of Guam's registered voters is 49,926. The last day for voters to update their registration information or transfer their voting precinct is August 18, 2020. That's next August 18, which is 10 days before the 2020 primary election. We strongly urge those who are registered to vote We strongly urge those who are registered to vote to update their information and ensure that they vote in the village in which they live. We also encourage those who have never voted and those who haven't voted in a while and thus were purged from the voting rolls, get registered to vote. And that's PDN's editorial today, Exercising Voting Rights. 380 voters' precincts changed, critical to vote in your village. Summary. It is important to remind voters that the law requiring voting in the village of your residence is important during elections for village mayors. This is a good time to enforce the law, and PDN is assisting Guam Election Commission to get the word out. The overall numbers of voters transferred by Guam Election Commission help us see actual work being done there. To each voter who may be challenged at the polls, this is specific notice to avoid embarrassment and voiding of your ballot for not complying with election law. In my own life, I'll use as an example. For the last 2 years and about 4 months or so, 3 or 4 months, I've been staying at my father's house in Jigo. But my family lives, and I still own, and I'm still part of the family, own a condo in Tamuning. So come next election, where should I vote? Should I vote in Tamuning or should I vote in Jigo? And I'd need to go with the Election Commission and find out. Because provided I'm still living in Jigo at the time of the next election, I should be voting there because that's where I reside on a daily basis. So this is how it's important. I don't want to go to the Tamuning precinct and have somebody say, I know you don't live in your own condo, the one that you own on Epow Road, that you've got there and your family stays there, but you yourself, you're the voter and you don't stay there. So I'm going to challenge your vote, and since you didn't change your residence, your vote doesn't count. You can't vote here. And anybody could say that to me, or say that to the precinct officials conducting the election in the precinct where I have voted since coming back in '82. And they would be right. So if any of you are in that position, they're going to enforce this for the upcoming election because of the election of the mayors. And so it's a good time to enforce the law. We're almost to our next break. Let's see if I can get through this. Robust competition in Guam's telecom market benefits consumers, businesses. Just a few decades ago, Guam consumers had to endure a very costly and antiquated phone system and other ways of communicating with the outside world. Long-distance calls to friends, family, and for work purposes could set back one's pocket by hundreds of dollars a month. A legislative public hearing on Wednesday for certain telecom appointees to government boards became the springboard for a discussion about how far Guam's telecom services and affordability of costs has advanced. The days of costly phone calls and dial-up internet are long gone. The former government of Guam monopoly over voice phone service are nothing but a faraway memory. And while various advancements in technology can take part of the credit, we who live on Guam should also thank the robust competition today from key players like Docomo Pacific, GTA, iConnect, and IT&E, and for providing not just phone service, but also bringing entertainment and connectivity to our homes and businesses via the internet. Most of the phone calls we make, according to some of the telecom representatives, are no longer done through the traditional voice phone service. Many phone calls are now done through the use of the newer voice of internet technologies. Guam's geographic location as a key transit hub for undersea cables, through which massive data traverse between the Asia-Pacific and the U.S. mainland, has helped us avail of some of the fastest online connections available in the developed communities. Online connectivity-wise, Guam has to offer some of the best the world has to offer. A robust competition should be explored for the utility and public transportation sectors as well. There must be a way to break down the remaining monopolies on this island for an improved quality of life. And that is the Guam Daily Post editorial for today, Thursday, September 12th. And let's take a break here, and we'll come back and we'll discuss this editorial right after this.
30 years ago, the very first Subway restaurant opened in Guam. Now, 15 restaurants later, Subway Restaurants is celebrating this milestone with a buy one, get one free offer every weekend, starting September 14th through October 12th. Come celebrate 30 years. Enjoy your favorite sandwich, salad, or wrap, all made with freshly sliced veggies and bread baked in every store. Take advantage of this buy one, get one deal. It's Subway Restaurants' way of saying thank you, Guam, for 30 wonderful years. Subway, make it what you want.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Talk Tells with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And welcome back to Tall Tales. We've got about 8.5 minutes to go here before the top of the hour on Fox News. So let's go ahead and continue our discussion here. Again, our telephone number here is 888-8255. Robust competition in Guam's telecom market benefits consumers and businesses. Telecom is a good example of how reducing legacy government service can allow profit-making incentives and technology to drive progress towards better service. I particularly like that the Post suggested utilities and public transportation as proximate sectors for improvement. They might have added education. I think editorials should take the reader to an actionable place. While this deregulation or divestment task is not for the readers to implement, readers are the customers and ultimate beneficiaries of well-crafted public policy. And we know who and which 15 to 25 people are responsible for that well-crafted public policy. And so, because of that, I am awarding the Blue Star to the Guam Daily Post. Love it. I love it because they have taken an example and they have provided us with notice that our elected leaders, legislature, governor, CCU, and the appointed officials are in a position to deregulate those public functions that they are administering now. They know, they are the subject matter experts that we have put in to do the work in our name. And so we know that they're there, that they need to do the job. And they're going to be the ones held accountable if it's just the same old status quo government of Guam for years and years. So that is why this is such an important editorial, because of the conclusions drawn. And so thank you, Guam Daily Post. I knew you had it in you. I knew it. I wanted to point out, I've got it here. But I'm not going to read it out for you, but I'm going to kind of hold it in case we get into kind of a dead spot. And that is Governor Ken Leon Guerrero in the PDN yesterday had a column that is entitled Descending to the 7 Levels of Hell. And it's kind of a recap of how we are sliding into those nether regions where our collective rear end is exposed to federal takeover because of the unwillingness or inability of our elected leaders to make decisions about the direction and content of our government. And so I'm going to bring that out. Not going to do it today because I got something, kind of a funny thing to do. Did you see in the Post on page 2 today about the, Real Joe, did you hear about this? About the prison mistakenly releases detainee?
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
Well, this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I don't think it's an easy or a even adequately compensated job to make sure that people stay in the prison. But
and they have a system, they have a protocol there.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
How do you get out of... there's a get out of jail free card in Monopoly, game of Monopoly, right?
Maybe you had one of
those. Been there for 70 years. We've had those get out of jail free cards. But did you ever expect to pick up the newspaper and read about how a detainee got out and had 10 hours of freedom, compliments of the DOC evening shift? I mean, maybe it spilled off into maybe it was initiated during the daytime and it took him that long to process him out. Oh, he has to go and have his dinner first. We can't put him out on the street until he has his shower. And then we have to get everyone else bedded down. Then we're going to have enough time to actually escort him out to the door and send him on his way. Time enough to drink it up. 10 hours of freedom. Time enough to drink it up and assault the same or another family member. And I just hope that this investigation will result in responsible government employees being themselves penalized. Because those government employees at the prison, not the ones at DOE, not the ones at Mass Transit, not the ones at Department of Administration, they can't point the fingers at anyone else. Somebody authorized it, and others carried it out. And they endangered the victims of this person. They let him out there, and if you look at what he was hauled in for, it had everything to do with drunkenness, domestic violence, and refusing to surrender, and misbehaving while on release. He was not the person to let out. Somebody should have, just said no to that. But so, we'll be waiting for the results of the investigation. Absolutely. Now, I'm going to, in the next hour, we'll go to our bill watch and we'll talk about HR 4262. You know what 4262 spells, right? Real Joe?
4262?
Yeah, it's for
No.
Bob.
Oh, I see.
You want Bob? Any prefix 4262, you'll get Bob. I guarantee you, because he's got all of the prefixes locked up. And so now he's got a bill named after him. And so we're going to be going to that after the top of the hour. Also, we're going to talk about the mayors versus wild animals. So stay tuned for that. It's 4:59, and all of your friends and neighbors who work for the government are about to get off and run to their cars and jump in just in time for the return of Tall Tales after the halftime show. So when you stop hearing the sound of my voice, it's like a starting gun. Get up and go. Grab your purse and head to the car, and we'll be back in about 6 minutes with more Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
New asylum rule to go into effect. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. The U.S. Supreme Court says the Trump administration can begin enforcing a new rule that says immigrants cannot apply for asylum in the United States without first applying in any country through which they passed to get here. About the ruling, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton telling the Evening Edit on the Fox Business Network.
Not surprised at all. The president has the authority under federal law to restrict the entry of any class of non-resident alien that he views as detrimental to the country. He has a lot of discretion as it relates to immigration, as it relates to asylum, as it relates to refugees, and he acted under his authority doing that.
The High Court did not decide the merits of the asylum case, only gave the administration the go-ahead to enforce the new rule while challenges to it are heard in the lower courts. There's a reported settlement in the lawsuit against Purdue Pharma by several states and hundreds of local governments. The company would pay as much as $12 billion, but admit no wrongdoing. The plaintiffs in the case charge Purdue Pharma and its owners, the Sackler family, contributed to the national opioid crisis with its marketing of the painkiller OxyContin. The House Judiciary Committee scheduled a vote today on rules for any impeachment proceedings in the House.
Is the House investigating whether to impeach President Trump or not? The answer is dependent on which Democrat you ask.
Well, the impeachment proceedings have been underway, by which I mean the proceedings to determine whether or not there should be articles of impeachment.
Judiciary Committee Democrat Jamie Raskin supports a resolution setting up parameters for future impeachment hearings. and giving more authority to subcommittees to look into potential wrongdoing by President Trump. The committee's top Republican says Democratic leaders have refused to call for formal impeachment proceedings, and this resolution up for a vote is meaningless, intended, he says, to keep the story in the news.
Fox's Jared Halpern. America is listening to Fox News.
Water. It covers nearly 3/4 of our Earth. From vast oceans to millions of rivers and streams, we're all concerned with protecting our world's water. But none is more important than the water you and your family drink and use throughout your home. A Connecticut water treatment system can improve your water so that your family is using the best water in the world. Connecticut, for refreshing ideas on water.
American Water Tech. A passion for improving lives through better water.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Calaguan Hafa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mescla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mescla, a true taste of Guam.
A couple wanted for murder who escaped while being extradited from New York State to Arizona 2 weeks ago is back in custody. Federal marshals report Blaine and Susan Barksdale were arrested northeast of Phoenix, Arizona on Wednesday. They had faked a medical emergency to overpower the security guards who'd been transporting them. A woman from China arrested last spring, snooping around the president's Mar-a-Lago estate, has been convicted.
A federal jury finds 33-year-old Yujing Zhang from Shanghai, China, guilty of trespassing and lying to federal agents for when she tried going to Mar-a-Lago when President Trump was there, saying she had family at the club and she was invited to a fictitious event. Secret Service would find a pile of cash and a number of cell phones in her hotel room. While she's not officially charged with being a spy, prosecutors did file confidential evidence against her. For now, Zhang is facing 6 years in prison. In Miami, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Food and Drug Administration preparing to ban virtually all flavored vaping products, which may make the vaping more attractive to teenagers. With hundreds of cases of a mysterious lung ailment being investigated for links to e-cigarettes, the Centers for Disease Control has urged people to stop vaping. A controversial social media post by some Colorado college students causing controversy.
The university says 4 students appeared in blackface on social media, but it can't take action against them because the post is protected by the First Amendment. It appeared on Instagram over the weekend with a caption referencing Wakanda, the setting for the movie Black Panther. University President Joyce McConnell and other administrators said in a statement the photo caused a great deal of pain because of the racist history of blackface. They say they plan to hold discussions and other events in response to the post. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
Asian stocks closing Thursday mixed. Dow futures are ahead nearly 90 points. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
GRMC's Neuroscience and Neurology Department treats a wide spectrum of disorders associated with the nervous system, spine, and brain. Some of the more common disorders include seizures, epilepsy, dementia, sleep disorders, migraine, and stroke, which is one of the leading causes of death on Guam. GRMC's neuroscience team is equipped with the latest technology and the finest neurological doctors. To make an appointment, contact GRMC Specialty Clinics at 645-5500.
30 years ago, the very first Subway restaurant opened in Guam. Now, 15 restaurants later, Subway Restaurants is celebrating this milestone with a buy one, get one free offer every weekend, starting September 14th through October 12th. Come celebrate 30 years. Enjoy your favorite sandwich, salad, or wrap, all made with freshly sliced veggies and bread baked in every store. Take advantage of this buy one, get one deal. It's Subway Restaurants' way of saying thank you, Guam, for 30 wonderful years. Subway, make it what you want.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
welcome back to Tall Tales. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who is away, and he will be back in 25 days. Thank you very much for tuning into the show this afternoon. And if you are interested in calling and telling us what's on your mind on a topic that I'm discussing or on anything else, you can go to Facebook Live and register your comments there, or you can call us here at the studio at 888-8255. Since the last time we looked at Facebook Live, Shelley Gibson has joined us. Welcome, Shelley. And Jesse Limtiaco said, if you get your tax return in 6 months rather than 3, you get more interest. So it's not so bad to wait. And Jen Concepcion Delgado says, Ken loves Jen. Jesse Limtiaco says, if EITC wasn't such a big issue and Gov Guam should be able to pay it, why did Michael St. Nicholas asked Treasury Secretary Mnuchin about it? I know Michael St. Nicholas wanted to delink from the U.S. tax code. If so, why can't he just continue to work with local legislators and the governor before going full throttle to Congress? This shouldn't be a last-ditch effort by our delegate. Jesse, exactly. You understand this right. Yes, Michael St. Nicholas is our delegate, and he works as a federal legislator in the halls of Congress. So his job is to persuade his colleagues there to do what it is that we need out here on Guam, out of the federal government, by way of policy. He's not accredited really to go to the executive agencies. He does have some oversight powers because he's a member of the federal legislative branch, so he can ask questions, and the executive agencies are compelled to respond. It works better if you're in a position of committee oversight, of being able to vote on items of importance to that committee, to that agency, because you're sitting on the committee that oversees the agency. But you'll get better response if you're there. And that's why our delegates have normally been on the committees that handle Department of Interior and handle the Pentagon. So Michael St. Nicholas is going down a different route, and we'll see how well that plays. Today's newspaper was full of items about full of stories about this. So that's HR 4262. And so on page 2 of today's Guam Daily Post, there's a story about Delegate St. Nicholas introducing a bill to expedite tax refunds. Now, to compel Gov Guam to follow its own local law with respect to making deposits is the purpose. Make deposits to a fund, but make it a matter of federal law that the local government follow through on its intentions that are expressed in local law. Quote, enables the local government to control the formulas they wish to establish, but it compels the administration to follow local law rather than be shielded by the executive authority over how they handle cash. That's Delegate St. Nicholas speaking. The last communication I had with Delegate St. Nicholas, he expressed surprise that I would take a position contrary to upholding the law. And that's a fair point for him to call me out on that. I think our senators and governors should act responsibly and in accordance to law, and if not, then honestly and affirmatively act to remove such laws from the books, as it is their power to do. To compel through federal law is to erode self-government. And I'm agreeing with Governor Leon Guerrero, Lou Leon Guerrero, on this point. And you don't hear me say that too often, but I do agree with her on this point. To compel through federal laws to erode self-government. Perhaps Delegate St. Nicholas is doing us a favor by revealing how our Organic Act government operates as a federal instrumentality. And in the course of this bill's consideration, we the people can see the discretionary nature of enforcement of federal law by the executive branch to defer to or sanction local official acts. Because they are compelled to uphold the local laws, but nobody's calling them on it. We do, and that's a political accountability. But if the U.S. government wanted to, then it would do that. And it can do that now, because that power still exists. And so we'll see what happens with this. When I was reading the story, page 1 on Guam Daily Post today, about SNAP change affects 2,000. And of course, this is about how about 2,000 people who will have to begin working 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month if they want to keep their benefits. And these 2,000 individuals each receive about $283 a month, or roughly $500,000 collectively a month in SNAP benefits. And so the government of Guam knows. See, Andy Soto of the Bureau of Economic Services at the Department of Public Health and Social Services knows that 15,518 local households, not 517 or 519, 518 local households receive SNAP benefits, formerly known as food stamps. And of that number, she said she knows about 2,000 people will be required to follow this national guideline or lose their benefits. And so I'm glad that this article has come out. And I appreciate that the Post has made this clarification. 13% of the total, $500,000 monthly payout, and that we have 3 months. They have 3 months to work and maintain their eligibility. So they can. It's a good incentive for job training and transition. So what they'll get, besides the income, they'll get 2 things when they work. One is $283 a month in food stamps. So on top of whatever they earn, they will get the food stamps or the SNAP. And they'll also get EITC because they have worked. But if they don't work, they don't get the EITC and they don't get SNAP. That's a big loss. That's a big cut. You know, maybe a company could be created to compete for government contracts using unskilled labor to do cleanups, roadside maintenance, and stuff like that. You know, this sort of opens up an opportunity to get some things done and get some people on the payroll. And, you know, instead of using the National Guard, actually create a program to get this done. It's going to cost money, isn't it? But otherwise, these are the very people that you don't want to be in a position to have to steal or mooch off people who are earning money and buying food or getting the food from with the assistance of food stamps. It's like 2,000 mouths to feed. And so it's important that we take this really seriously. And I can see that they're doing that down at Department of Labor. So we're going to keep an eye on this and see how well they do. The Help Wanted ads this week, I noticed that there's a repeating from last week, job announcement for temporary positions. These are not permanent jobs. These are temporary jobs. 18 carpenters, 22 cement masons, 3 electricians, 1 heavy equipment mechanic, 3 heavy equipment operators, 2 plumbers, 9 reinforcing metal workers, 2 camp cooks, besides the ones that were separately advertised for, and 2 sheet metal workers. And this is BME and Sons are looking for these workers locally. If they can't, then they're going to try to get them off island. But certainly these jobs are open. All of them require at least 1 year of experience. Several of these jobs require 2 years of experience. There's another. Fargo Pacific is looking for 25 carpenters, 20 cement masons, 10 electricians, 2 reinforcing metal workers, 2 sheet metal workers, 6 painters, and 4 plumbers. Let me add these up. That's just 2 companies. They can't get their H2 workers here. They have to recruit locally. And if that's the case, and these projects need to get done, will people come from the states to fill these jobs? Will our own schools turn out people who could fill these jobs as apprentices and then take them, next year after they get a year of experience doing the work under supervision? Or maybe they don't want anybody who doesn't have 1 year experience, 2 years of experience. So that's Fargo Pacific. And Commercial Tire Depot is looking for a tire technician and driver. CTD offers highly competitive wages, including profit sharing. And you can apply in person up there at 910 Army Drive, Route 16, Barragata. Commercial Tire Depot, tire technician and driver. So those are the jobs that are available in the community right now. And for those who are able-bodied and looking to break into the world of construction work, then that is the kind of job that will be filled in the future. So, let's see. I wonder if anybody out there saw this. In PDN today, the Department of Administration put out an invitation for bid for minor and major repairs, preventive maintenance, and to include diagnostics for all Guam Regional Transit Authority vehicles. So the packages are available at ITC second floor at GSA, and then there's the whole GSA process of applying. But certainly there's some business there for a company that can maintain the vehicles that Regional Transit Authority purchased with grant money a year or so, 2 years ago. And so I see that I have a call on line 1. Let's go to Carl. Carl, welcome to Tall Tales.
Hey, Darrell, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was listening to the various conversations while I was driving around, and I finally got back. So I figured I'd call up. Yeah, I just wanted to add my thoughts about the issue of our delegate making it so that the government has to keep our tax refund money locked away. And, as I heard mentioned, there's some mention about, well, this takes away our government's discretion in handling of funds. The problem is that when we've left it up to our elected representatives, we have had to wait a long time. And I can remember the stories of people I know waiting up to 4 more years to get money that was rightfully theirs. And it's been brought up that, interest is being tacked onto that. Yeah, but we were never asked. We were never given an option on if we wanted to do that. And I can speak from experience. When my wife was going through her 6-year battle with cancer, going up to revenue and tax and filling out a form and basically pleading with them to give me my own money. Because, as you well know, you've dealt with various people, I'm sure, that have dealt with cancer. I mean, the co-pays and the various costs can just be, it's scary. I was just a nervous wreck sometimes. So, what that does is, by the government using its discretion and saying, no, we're not going to pay you your money in 3 months or 6 months, we'll wait a year or 2 years, maybe 3 years, at least in the past. So what they've done is they've basically cut off access from our money that is rightfully ours. And we've been given no say in the matter. They just said, we're just going to do this, and we'll give you some interest. Well, the interest is fine, but I'd rather, have access to the money, because I may have desperate needs, specifically, I think, from my experience, of medical needs and various other things. So that's why I support this idea, because we have given our government, our representatives, discretion, and too many times it's just been misused. Tax money has been used to kind of pad government funds and to juggle money around in order to make things work, and also to avoid needed reforms. So I'm under the impression, after watching local politics and national politics for, give or take 40 years, that reform is not going to come until government is forced to do it, which is why I support the other Governor Ken Leon Guerrero, in his efforts to make certain reforms. Because without citizen action, it's never going to happen.
Well, it actually has already happened, and it was citizen action that caused it. You remember that there was a case taken to the federal court asking the court to compel the government of Guam to pay out the tax refunds. So right now, they're under court order, a continuing order, to pay out the taxes within 6 months. And they must...
I'd even forgotten about that, but I didn't know that was a continuing order.
Oh, it is. It is a continuing order. It was when the judge made her ruling on the matter, it was stated that this was basically, it was like a permanent injunction. That was what was sought, and that's what was granted. It was that the government of Guam has to manage its money in such a way that it pays out. And so I think under Guam law, if you go beyond 3 months, you have to pay interest. But then because the court order says that you have to pay by 6 months out, or answer to the court why you're not doing so. They have kept it, and this is something that the governor has pointed out. Even the last governor has pointed out. There isn't a problem paying out. And we recognize that the payouts have to be made. We're not going to those bad old days, because we're already compelled by the federal court to make those payouts. I also want to point out to you that those people who have reasons not to pay their taxes can file to have the withholding reduced or down to zero, and just file that in advance. And so your paycheck doesn't have, it's not taken out of your paycheck. You'll simply file another W-4, and then you calculate your expected tax, and you claim that on your record. Then when you file your tax return, then they will pull that file out, and they'll take a look at it and see whether you are complying with your own statement that you don't think that you're going to be paying taxes in that particular year, so that the taxes don't get dragged out of your paycheck by your employer. And so those are two areas where we already have much of this done. The point that Delegate St. Nicholas appears to be making is that the safeguards that government of Guam put in place to put a lockbox and deposit the money so that they're available as soon as the forms are processed, that process has not been implemented. And so he wants that process implemented. And but we're still talking about money that the individual taxpayers could have reduced in real time, reduced it, not at the end of the year, but today, could have gone to Revenue Tax and said, I don't think by the end of the tax year I'm going to owe you any money. So stop dragging it out of my paycheck, and here's all the paperwork that makes that statement. And then the court order. So there's a lot of politics here, a lot of positioning, and it may come out in the course of the hearings, if this bill ever goes to a hearing, it may come out that Delegate St. Nicholas is just playing politics. And so it's not, in my opinion, it's not a good move. Other people are going to say it's a good move because we want to force the government of Guam, like you just did. We want to force the government of Guam to follow its own laws. And that's where the political accountability comes in, and that's why the legislature should really be working hard on issues of importance here on Guam and not having to get distracted by what the delegate is doing without consulting the local leaders. And so I understand your concern. I think in a little while we're going to get to a part of the show where we're going to be talking about something near and dear to your heart, which is the Fanhita Conference, our continuing quest for decolonization. The session started today. So I'm about to go to a break, and I have another call. So, Carl, you may want to call back, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll be listening. I'm going to be doing a little driving again, so
well, I hope
we'll see if I call. But I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, I hope to keep you entertained and informed.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I never listen to music. The only music I listen to is bumper music between segments of talk radio.
Well,
that's about it.
I'm not here to convert you. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I appreciate the the conversation, and I appreciate learning new things. I learn, from even callers that call in, what you talk about. So, thank you for allowing me to share a few of my thoughts on the subject.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling this afternoon, Carl.
Sure.
Let's go to line 2, and thank you for holding line 2. You're on the air, Tall Tales.
Is that me, Daryl?
That is you.
This is Francis. Hey, listen, I'm really grateful, man. Let me turn this damn radio down. So we got 25 days before the senior Marine comes back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. Hey, listen, man, I enjoy the issues. You discuss. So I know we have issues. My concern, on a serious note, is that I was talking to somebody, from L.A., Montana, all the way down to Panhandle, and then straight up northeast, where up to New York. And I couldn't, the conversation was not that long because of the time,
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, Daryl, man, listen to this, man. I mean, you know what? I know we have issues, but the issues is under control. What my concern is that is immigration, and we've talked about this. We've discussed this issue about immigration. But you know what? I met somebody, man, on a federal level, and I says, "Listen here, buds. You need to get your people in here, and maybe help you out, because." You can't handle this. You can't handle immigration. I don't care if it's control or enforcement or whatever, But you need to know that we have military, we have technology coming, homeland, we have a National Guard. Everybody's involved, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me clear?
Yes, I can. Please continue. Yes.
So my concern is immigration needs to come in here and start monitoring the gates, because we have issues here with immigration, and people have, you know, have been not taking serious notes on this, and have not been really enforcing it, because what I hear is that their manpower is short. But man, let me tell you, you know, I remember a time when there was always a federal immigration inspector assigned to the international airport, you know, which is a point of entry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he monitors an intel listing of suspected terrorists and major international crime syndicates, you know, that want to come into and take advantage of this territory.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to them. I said, "Listen, man, you need to get your chats together, get in here and start monitoring. We have a census coming up, and you people, you and your agents should be here to assist in the census and monitor, because there will be running. Some of them will go to the finest hotels on the island, you know, and avoid the census. We have corporate, we have construction companies and what have you, you know, that hire ACE2 and what have you, you know. These contracts should be monitored and should be really, immigration should really concentrate on this, because there's going to be people coming in here with demanding or requesting for political asylum. There are collaborators that have completely betrayed their damn country, you know, and then trying to wait for their place and get to a U.S. where they can escape, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much, man. I'm telling you, there's illegal entry through false documentations. And then you have your political asylums that are seeking a way out of their communist, whatever you call it, you know, press without. And
You're breaking up. Are you moving around? Your phone's kind of breaking up.
No, I'm just right now. I'm digging the ground. You know, I have to replace my line.
Okay.
So I bought some conduits, you know, and what is it? PVCs. I'm almost complete, so I'm going to have a clear line in about a week or two. But you know, that was my concern. We're all busy, you know, with other issues, which I don't think is more like a dire strait issue, but we have full control. It's just that some of the issues that we talk about, the feds need to come in and work with us, you know, because your democracy is good, you know. We don't have any secrets, you know, and on a state where they don't believe in a democratic system, there's no secrets. We don't have that. We don't have a problem. We're good. We're okay. We're doing fine. We're happy. Of course, we look at the system, you know, and we argue a lot about our systems, and I hear that. And
yes. Yeah, Real Joe keeps turning it up.
Real Joe Cruz, you know, trying to, you know. Hey, listen, man, let me call you back tomorrow, and I know I called late, but there was so much, so many good things that you were bringing up, you know, and I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Well, thank you very much for calling over and for expressing what's on your mind today. I think that everyone's being, well, that is a problem that has always been with us, but your perspective on this helps us understand that this is something that's not going away, especially
exactly,
with 9/11.
You're going to sleep better one day.
Yeah, especially with the 9/11, that reminds us that this is.
I lost a lot of friends at the 9/11. I was living in right across the bridge in Queens. Is a place, a Sicilian area, was called Astoria. So I grew up there, and I eat dinner with them, with a lot of my friends, you know, and that were employed at the Twin Towers.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, man. You know. Anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow, man.
Okay.
But it's all good. Daryl.
Thank you, Francis.
Good, brother.
I appreciate you calling in today and reminding us of this really important point.
Exactly. Hey, thanks, man. And
Yes.
now hopefully, inshallah, meaning God willing, I'll probably talk to you tomorrow.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, right. Hey, have a beautiful evening, Daryl.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
You too. That was Francis on the line, and we're talking about all these other things going on, but that control of immigration has been a perennial issue for decades. We'll return to this subject and more after this break.
Would you say that you deserve a promotion? Is your work so good that somebody should have noticed by now just how valuable you really are to the operation? Then why hasn't it happened? I'm Jerry Robertson at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show. Some thoughts on how to position yourself better for a bump up the organization.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Hey, do you know what time the bank closes? I need to deposit my check.
You know you can do that from your phone.
I can?
With Bank of Guam's mobile app, it's easy. Just endorse the back and snap a pic to deposit it into your account. You can do this from anywhere, anytime, which means no rushing to catch the bank and no lines.
With Bank of Guam's mobile app and online banking, we're always open. Visit bankofguam.com for more information. Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Member FDIC.
Well, I appreciate the caller, Francis, calling in and reminding us that immigration continues to be a major concern, national security concern, and concern over terrorism, especially on an island which is so very important in this part of the world for the extension of American military power to defend the country and to support our allies in the region. And it's also a place that has American media, and so something done here will get lots of play in the world media. And so we'll get into this. We'll get into this. Not immediately. I'd like to actually hear from more of you out there. But in the time we have left, we only have about 20 minutes left in today's show. I wanted to get to something that, I don't know if you, well, first off, the Fanhita conference on continuing quest for decolonization. The session started today with Carlos Madrid and Michael Bivacqua with historical details on ongoing local effort to resist colonization and expand self-governance, and also details of Spanish and American governments' descriptions of Chamorros. Official communications describing Chamorros as childlike, needing to be civilized, and needing to be administered. Also, that there were 2 constitutional conventions, and we got permission from Congress to write our own constitution. But we were not allowed to address federal territorial relationships in our constitution writing. And that's what led to the Draft Commonwealth Act movement in the early 1980s, and that went on for over 15 years without being entertained seriously by Congress, despite the best efforts of our delegates. And now, because that failed, that's how we got to where we are now with the decolonization effort, seeking assistance from outside the U.S., since we couldn't do it inside the U.S. I was watching this morning on PBS and following the arguments and the presentations. It continued with Victoria Lola Leon Guerrero concerning status quo and how well we are doing or not doing under status quo by the numbers, by actual data that's collected on on how well the community is faring under this form of government. It was carried live on PBS Guam until they had some technical difficulties midday. And then as of 2:30, 1:30, 2:30, PBS was still airing its regular cartoon schedule. It was supposed to restart at 12:30 with Panel 2. The schedule's in the PDN today on page 2, full schedule for today and tomorrow. Hopefully, the technical difficulties will be addressed, and they'll be able to show more of this live. If I'm able to watch it tomorrow morning, that would be a good thing. Otherwise, we'll have to wait and take a look at it on YouTube or Facebook. So on that, I needed to get through that because that's happening right now. Very interesting, and is amazingly respectful. I say amazingly because you would think that it would be couched in very anti-terms, but it's not. It's very straightforward, and is all the assertions are subject to fact checking, and they're also available for interpretation. And so you may want to find out more about this, and I'll bring more to you tomorrow. But I don't know if any of you saw my comment on Facebook Live today during Ray Gibson's show about there were 3 articles today, 1 in PDN and 2 in the Guam Daily Post concerning the mayors and talking about wild animals in their villages. But I made a comment when Ray was talking about it this morning. This is my comment. Pigs and dogs proliferate when federally funded agencies can't promote birth control. Also, we can't discharge our firearms within certain distance of any house. You got to wait, and to invoke the castle doctrine, you got to wait until all 4 legs of the dog or the pig are inside your house. Can't shoot it in the yard. You got to bring it into the house. It have to be attacked in the house in order to discharge your firearm in a housing area. And you better kill it so it doesn't crawl outside before it dies, and then you get stuck with being charged with the mess, as far as discharging your firearm. And you see, these animals, they know this. They're not coming into the house. They can roam the streets freely because they know we're not going to go out there and shoot. We just went through this twice. We tried to put a guy in jail for shooting menacing dogs in his neighborhood, and they read the papers too. And they know we're not taking it seriously. They're taking advantage of government regulations and laws on firearms, castle doctrine, gun control. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the Guam Daily Post today reported in one of the articles that Santa Rita is now a coastal village. But PDN is still in denial of rising sea levels and global warming. But the Post has got religion on this. So Santa Rita is now a coastal village. And it may be that the Santa Rita pigs and dogs have invaded Agate and Petey. And the Post is getting out in front of everybody else by recognizing the new municipal boundaries in anticipation of a bill in the legislature that may have been filed today to recognize the new boundaries. And I didn't even know until I read the articles, these 3 articles today. I didn't even know that the mayors are recognizing that there's even a wild animal threat by doves. Doves. I'm not kidding. Doves. Doves are part of the problem. And
did you say doves?
Dove, D-O-V-E-S. Doves. They have been in the article in the Pacific Daily News by Heidi Eugenio Gilbert, entitled Mayors Vent Frustration Over Stray Dog Control. Talking about the meeting of the Mayor's Council yesterday. At the meeting, mayors also expressed concern with the growing number of other animals, such as wild pigs, doves, and bees. They said maybe the animal control efforts could be expanded. This problem has been with us since I was a kid. And no, you're not supposed to go outside and blast away the neighbor's dog. You know, you might miss. You know, the dogs are... They don't want to get shot. Even the pigs, they're not strolling out there to get shot. They're going for your bell peppers and your carrots and your in your garden and your tomatoes. They're not going for they're not going to stand still and be a target. They're gonna move. And then your stray bullet goes through somebody's wall or window and injures somebody. So we can't have people out there just taking care of it themselves. As armed as this community is, it would be bedlam. But how many people do we have on the government of Guam payroll who are by law qualified, responsible, trained, equipped to address this? There's quite a few. They're just not assigned to do it. Or it's just such a big problem they can't deal with it. There's probably more people in the Mayor's Council and all the village mayor's offices combined that are more people than are in other parts of the government of Guam that are now getting a finger pointed at them saying, you better do something for us here. And, I didn't even know about the doves. This is like a new animal air force. We've got the ground troops and now we've got doves, the air force. Doves and bees. Do you know why village dogs, the ones that are not sickly and mange-ridden, you've seen these dogs. Why do they always look like they got a smile on their face? That life is good. And it's because they're fed, they are free to roam, and they're valued as being actually better than having GPD Koban on your street. Like in Japan or in Thailand, where there are Kobans staffed with police who are in visual line of sight view of each other. And they're also in radio control, communication, to monitor what's going on in the streets. But so that makes these dogs actually GPD, Guam Patrol Dogs. And how about them hogs? GPD, again. Guam Pig Deja Vu, right? Right? That's how you say it, right? Deja Vu? Guam Pig Deja Vu, all over again. Apparently, the higher salaries for our mayors have not improved the delivery of municipal public services. That's a conclusion I can draw. I mean, I can't connect the dots any other way. And this is tiring me out. Do we have another break we can take here? Because I got to take a breather here. Okay, we'll be right back with and wrap up today's show.
Ang pagkakaroon ng sariling negosyo ay maraming benepisyo, ngunit mayroon din itong mga mabigat na hamon. Dito sa Nanbo Insurance, masinsin naming iniintindi ang katayuan ng pagmamay-ari ng negosyo. Kaya naman, isinaalang-alang namin ito sa aming business owner policy. Mabibigyan kayo ng coverage sa workers' comp, theft, liability, commercial property, at personal accident. Lahat yan sa iisang policy. Hayaan ibsan namin ang inyong mga pangamba. Magtiwala ka na ang inyong kabuhayan ay aming pangangalagaan.
Nambo Insurance, celebrating 50 years of half-a-day service. We are number one!
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Sometimes it's such a joy preparing to come in here and be with you for a couple of hours. And so I'm able to, kind of try to distill these pieces of information that the news media are providing to us and share here some of my thoughts, and for you to share your thoughts. I see that. Let's see. On Facebook Live, there are a few comments that have come in. Okay, let's see. On just what we've been talking about over the last little while, Richard Leon is online with us this afternoon. He says, Little Lou LG doesn't fight for the common man. Mike St. Nicholas has ideas that show old politicals are busy sleeping. And then he continues, PI tourist visa are the keys to get to Guam and then get lost. And Gov Guam has nothing adequate. Frenchie says, Bivacqua and history, the equivalent of Maoist revisionism. I'd like for you, Frenchie, to kind of go through and describe that, because you're an academic like he is, and academics have rules about references and using sources that are checkable, that they've been there. And so I'm sure you're a better, because of your advanced education, you would be in a really good position to go through Michael Bivacqua's statements and show exactly how he is. And you're certainly welcome to describe it here on the air, because I'd like to give everyone a chance to understand exactly what you mean by Maoist revisionism. I was around. I think we're about the same age. I was around back in the bad old 1960s when we had plane loads of GIs on their way to Vietnam flying into Anderson every. The planes never stopped flying. They were stacked up in the holding pattern for Anderson Air Force Base for years, day and night. And I lived underneath that approach path, and I was amazed. Middle of the day, middle of the night. They were just one after the other. And on the radio, you would hear, Radio Moscow and Radio Peking just telling the world what's what about how, U.S. is such a, and you would hear them, juggle the facts around. You could see that. You could hear it. You could see it. And so I would like for you to assist us here and come out with specifically how Michael Bivacqua is, would you say, Bivacqua in history, the equivalent of Maoist revisionism? Because I think we would be informed, better informed than we are. Ken Leon Guerrero says maybe they will tell the camera guy to close in on the speaker instead of a wide shot focusing on the banner. So I guess it's oh yeah, I know what you mean. So maybe they're back on the air now, because I know this morning they were doing a wide shot so the background banner was in the shot, and then people talking were just small. Richard Leon says, stray dog issue has been an ongoing fact, and the mayors and Mayor's Council of Guam had been fighting more on the gaming issue. You're right. We saw it all happen. Well, what were the dogs doing when the mayors were going to the wall to make sure that gambling was done, was authorized, and they changed the law? You know what the dogs were doing. Even the pigs were doing it. Birds do it. The doves were doing it. The bees do it. And the dogs and the trees do it. They were falling in love as nature intended. While the mayors were off concentrating on trying to make money for Guam Island Fair. Richard Leon says there's a proliferation of non-productive mayors. True that. We can see that. Read the 3 articles in the 2 papers today. You get a really good idea of just how productive. They're all pointing fingers at each other. They are pointing fingers at the government of Guam, saying, you got to do something about this. But even a couple of them are saying, every time, where was it? Let me see. One of them called out their colleagues on this. Yeah, Jigo Mayor Rudy Matanani, who's taking the lead on this. Quote, I'm tired of you guys complaining about nobody doing anything. We've already said we're going to do it, so do something. So do it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do the right thing. I asked last week if all of you mayors can help with the dog cages. Nobody said anything. And then Mayor Jesse Gogri from Chalampago said, quote, the fact that we have had on the books for more than 20 years a mandatory licensing program that has never been implemented, we're failing. And then Mayor Jesse Alec, I saw the other day, he said, quote, we need to execute a plan today, adding that mayors have been talking about dog control for years, yet there's no concrete plan in place. Lanny Walker, writing for the Guam Daily Post today, the one who recognized the new municipal boundaries for Santa Rita, said the pigs are getting smarter too. Yeah, they're off doing what pigs do. When the mayors are downtown wringing their hands and counting, making deals with the gambling interests. So, and now there are more dogs and more pigs, more doves, more bees. And it'll be like that until they finally figure out what to do. Well, you know what we've got to do? You hear that music? We've got to go. But I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 4 with more Tall Tales. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. Very happy to be here with you. And Ray Gibson tomorrow morning. He'll be right here in this very same chair from 6 until 10, so do stay tuned. In the meantime, have a very, very good evening, everyone.
The Point is KUSG.